Hi guys, and you're very welcome back to Boil and Talk Sport YouTube channel, where I am just going to have a very quick look back on today's action in Prestbury Park and have what we'll call the final fling at this year's festival. It's something that always amazes me that, it's something that those of us interested in, and to some extent at least, in a very loose way, working in and around racing, count down from one end of the year to the other, and then the 4 days themselves appear to go by in nothing short of a blur. And in that regard, this year is no different. In actual fact, I would venture to suggest that it may even be a little bit more so this year, due to the fact that there are no spectators in attendance. But it's certainly one, and I suppose we're in the fortunate position of being able to say another one that the Irish won't be able to forget, because after yesterday's fantastic Hall of Winners on St. Patrick's Day, today was yet another bonanza for the Irish racing set. I suppose the one thing about racing, though, the only certainty in horse racing is the uncertainty of it, and banker and sure thing and the likes are words which we tend to throw around at a bit of a rate when commenting on or watching the horses. And as I spoke about earlier in the week, it has been seen many times in the past with Annie Power and Benny the Jew and the likes, the so-called bankers of the week coming a cropper. And unfortunately for Henry the Bromhead, Jack Kennedy, and Cheeley Park, today was another instance of the same thing, when the highly touted, and deservedly so, may I add, Envoy Ellen came crashing after a couple of fences in what was supposed to be, and to be honest, an all known form, would have been a penalty kick of a victory for him. But look, that's jump racing, they're there to be jumped, and the important thing in this instance is that both Jack Kennedy and the horse got up and lived to fight another day, and Envoy Allen's departure opened the door for the very impressive Chantry House out of the Nicky Henderson yard, who I would have had a quiet fancy for before the festival, and was in fact one of the very few anti-post bets that I had done before the festival kicked off. But I suppose you're going to have that thing now that if Envoy stood up, would he won? Look, we'll never know. There's no point crying over spilled milk. The one thing I will say is that I would feel that, one blot on a horse's copybook after, I don't know how many races unbeaten, most certainly doesn't make the animal a bad horse by any means. And in one way, I'm sure Henry and connections would be sort of saying to themselves, um, well, there was going to be a slip up, was always going to come somewhere down the line. Hopefully, that's it, done and dusted. Now, I know there will be never a good time for it to happen, and today would naturally enough be actually the worst possible day it could happen. But look, I would have no doubt that Envoy Allen will indeed bounce back and prove that he in fact is every bit as good as what the vast majority of the racing fraternity would consider him to be. Then the second race was the Ryanair Chase, and this went to the Willie Mullins trained Rachael Blackmore ridden Allaho, which was, in fairness, a nice turn of luck for Cheveley Park. Stood after Envoy Allen ending up on his backside. But I think over the course of the 3 days so far, anyone that remained to be convinced of the brilliance of Rachael Blackmore in the saddle surely has to have been swayed over in the right direction at this stage, because whether it's making her own running or coming from off the pace or setting a slow pace or whatever it is, the Tipperary lady can do it anyway. The job needs to be done, and aboard Allaho, she just jumped the horse out, did everything to suit herself, and ended up turning what should have been a highly competitive Ryanair Chase into something of a piece of work for the Willie Mullins charge. Now contrast that to the Henry de Bromhead trained Tellmesomethinggirl in the Mares Novice Hurdle, where Rachel sort of sat behind and took her time and eventually did what all the good jockeys do, began to weave her way through traffic before arriving up, swinging on the bit, as they say, and eased away from what was a highly competitive field of young mares, leaving only a cloud of dust behind her. And indeed, she may well have been about to do the same in the Kim Muir chase aboard Plan of Attack, were it not for coming crashing down at what I think was the third last. The horse was running a fine race, and I would feel that was probably in line to get into the money again. I must of course then make mention of the actual stairs hurdle itself. As Susie, my partner, texted me after the race, it was something of a mead race because you had the Gavin Cromwell trained Flooring Porter, a runaway winner of the race after Danny Mullins took a leaf out of the Richie Condon Paul Hennessy book from yesterday and jumped out and made all the running to suit himself. And thereafter, in behind you had Noel Meads, Beacon Edge, Sir de Burley out of the Gordonelli Denise Foster operation. But the fact of the matter was that once Danny Mullins had set out to set things up for himself aboard Flooring Porter, that none of the others were able to strike any sort of meaningful blow against him. Though I will say, both Beacon Edge and Sir de Burley, I would have felt, may well have been better suited if there was a bit of cut in the ground. But look, as Ruby Walsh famously said one time when being interviewed on television, if me aunt was kitted out differently, she'd be me uncle. I would, though, make mention of the John Shark Hanlon trained Sky Ace. Now, this horse's story has been one of the stories of the national hunt scene in the last year or so here in Ireland, or indeed going back a good bit before. This horse was sold out of Willie Mullins and considered to be not up to much. And, having been bought out of Willie Mullins for the fairly measly sum by horse price standards of 800 quid. The great character that is John the Shark Hanlon has turned the horse inside out and upside down and has transformed him into an unbelievable money spinner for its owners now. I don't know whether it will stay in training, but if it does, already judging by the absolute jump in standards it has made over the last while with Shark, one just wouldn't know where the ceiling of the horse's ability may be. But anyway, to look forward to the final fling at this year's festival already. On day 4, we open with the JCB Triumph Hurdle. And now the Triumph Hurdle is always a little bit of a mad scramble or scrum of a race, often ran at an absolutely furious pace. I think most of you may remember a very promising horse trained by Joseph O'Brien called Sir Eric, which unfortunately met its demise in the Triumph. So it really is a test of a horse's ability, a jockey's ability, and whatever about the Sir Eric situation, you will also probably remember last year, I think it was anyway, when the Gary Moore trained Goshen appeared to have the race in the bag when approaching the last in absolute cruise control, only to go head over tip. So it's not a race you could ever take anything for granted in, although, to be fair, the Denise Foster trained Noel Moran owned Zanahir is a very worthy favourite. Now, whether I would have him as short as the 5 to 4 he is currently trading at, I don't know. In actual fact, I think to have any horse at such cramped odds in the Triumph Hurdle is being optimistic and optimistic in the extreme. Now, you certainly couldn't knock the horse for anything it has done on the track so far, but I just wonder, will the fact that he in fact hasn't had to go out of third gear to win the races he's accomplished so far, might there be a possibility that, as I was saying there, the Gordon Elliott stroke Sneezy Foster representative Zanahir is probably a worthy favourite, but I just wonder, given the helter-skelter nature of the Triumph Hurdle, whether it might just have the revs in the engine to quicken away, providing it would survive all the hustle and bustle on the way around. Now, he is a deserving favourite, but there's just some little thing makes me slightly uneasy about him, and for that reason, I would be just happier to have a go at the Alan King trained Adrian Heskin ridden Tritronic. Now, Alan King has proved himself to be a master at training juvenile hurdlers in the past, having won this particular race, of course, with Catchett back in the day, who went on to win a champion hurdle, if I'm not mistaken. So, Tritronic will certainly do for me in the first race. Now, the second race is it used to be the Vincent O'Brien, I'm not sure if it still is, the County Hurdle. Presently, the Willie Mullins trained Ganapathy is the 5 to 1 favourite. I would be inclined to take this one on again because, you want going to Cheltenham, you want horses that are going in a fairly decent frame of mind, and on his last outing he only came in fifth. Now, that is not to say that he couldn't do it, and it probably is noteworthy that he is the choice of stable jockey Paul Townend for Willie, and obviously would command the utmost respect, but I think he is, when I say only, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm just looking here at the bet. Nearly every horse in the race is going out in the betting, with the exception of, surprise, surprise, the Henry de Bromhead trained Rachael Blackmore ridden Champagne Gold, who at the time of recording has already been backed in from 8 to 1 to 6 to 1. Now, the way that the Bromhead horses have been running all week, and the manner in which Rachel has been partnering them all week, I would not put anyone off siding with the inform combination again. However, I have a horse which I've had my eye on for this race for a number of months, and whatever about having savers on perhaps some other horses in the race, I will definitely be sticking with the Dan Skelton trained, Harry Skelton ridden, third time lucky. Now, the Skeltons have an absolutely fantastic record in this particular race. Indeed, if I'm not mistaken, they may have won it 2 consecutive years with the same horse. I definitely remember Bridget Andrews riding the winner for her brother-in-law, Dan Skelton, a couple of years back. And, this particular horse, third time lucky, is rated 143, which is £3 ahead of Ganapati and just a pound lower than Champagne Gold for Henry de Bromhead. I would have imagined now that, one thing I've sort of got out of doing in recent years was reading too many Cheltenham previews or watching too many of them on television or online, as it tended to be this year, for the simple reason that I think the more you watch these programs, the more you're inclined to bog yourself down with everyone else's opinion, and in a lot of cases, it pays to trust your own judgment, and it certainly hasn't served me too bad, not only in recent years, but over the course of the last 3 days, indeed. So I would stick the heaviest part of my conviction behind third time lucky, while I would also possibly have a small side bet on the Martin Brazel trained Dara O'Keefe ridden You Raised Me Up. Now, how can I put this in a nice and non self incriminating way? Martin Brazel is as good a trainer as there is out there, and probably one of the great things about him is he knows how to cut whatever material he has within his yard according to size. And I would feel that from a fairly limited string, he actually does exceptionally well, and you know, I would have a feeling that the appearance of You Raise Me Up running off a mark of 141, which again is a pound higher than the Willie Mullins horse, which is quoted favourite currently, may very well be a case of, as Hannibal used to say in the A team, a plan coming together. So, third time lucky, and You Raise Me Up will do for me in the county hurdle. We then move on to the Albert Bartlett, the Stairs Novice Hurdle, if you will, and I will come straight out and be brutally honest with you. Statler, trained by Willie Mullins, is a horse that I've had the utmost of time for since the first time I seen him winning a bumper around Fairyhouse. I suppose it was some stage last year at this stage. But I think I remember when he won his maiden hurdle around Fairyhouse again, he slightly had to be, what would we say, encouraged a little more than may have been considered to be the case to get there, but he got there well and was actually stretching away from his opposition the further he went. The Denise Foster prepared Fakira is currently trying. Just give me a sec. Yeah, yes. So while sorry, I just got slightly sidetracked there. I think what I was saying before I paused was that while Statler hadn't looked impressive in winning his maiden hurdle at Fairyhouse, he still dug out a result, I suppose you would say, and sometimes, they're the sort of horses one would want to plumb for that would uh, dig in and battle and find their way to win, which he also did at the Dublin Racing Festival. I think it was some of the jockey. It was actually Danny Mullins. After he was interviewed on what was incredibly his first Cheltenham Festival winner, flooring Porter for Gavin Cromwell in the stairs. Was it the stairs? I do believe it was it was of course, the stairs hurdle this evening, and Danny Mullins was just saying that the form of the races in the Dublin Racing Festival in early February has been held up and vindicated especially well, and that is why I would fancy Statler to put his obvious stamina to very good use, and it should be enough to carry the day As for danger as well, the Denise Foster prepared Torygraph in the Jigginstown Silks must be respected, as would the Paul Nichols trained Harry Cobden ridden Barbados books. Now, the only thing I see, it seems to be on a marked drift in the betting, having gone from an opening show of 11 to 2 out to 8 to 1. I think it is again worth noting that the John McConnell trained Simon Turns ridden Streets of Doyen looks to be the subject of a fairly sustained gamble, having been punted from 14 to 1 into around about half that price. Another one that I see a bit of sustained money coming for is the McNeil family owned Paul Nichols trained 3 under through 5, who has currently shifted from 14s into 9s, but Statler will do for me as regards the winner, with possibly a bit of value in Streets of Doyen to run into a place and give John McConnell and Simon Turns another big payday after they were probably a spot unlucky not to get even closer to the big money with Go Another One in today's handicap chase. That, of course, leads us nicely on to the big one of the day, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, basically the Champions League final, All Ireland final, NBA basketball finals, or whatever one wants to compare it to, of horse racing, and it is only right and fair that I should begin my look at the race by giving deserved mention to the two-time back-to-back reigning and defending Gold Cup champion album photo from the Willie Mullins yard. I think Willie Mullins is a genius for many, many reasons of what he does, but there's one particular story which probably maybe didn't get or doesn't get played up as much as it should, given the significance of what tends to develop after it, and that is, and perhaps it's a glowing endorsement of the track involved, but the tradition, which is obviously at this stage very much a game plan, of starting album photo off in Tramore on a New Year's Day has proven to be the perfect potion for getting Joe Donnelly's 9-year-old in the best order to peak on the day that matters most. It must also be said, I suppose, that there's absolutely no reason why he shouldn't or at least couldn't do it again. But as I said to somebody earlier this evening, I haven't backed the horse for the last 2 years, and I am certainly not going to jump aboard the bandwagon now when he's going for his hat trick. Now, that is absolutely nothing against the horse. I mean, the horse's record has spoken for itself and does speak for itself. But there's no point trying to catch the train when the carriages are already full. And for that reason, now, as I said, there's no reason why album photos shouldn't or couldn't win it again. But, and I am not doing this for the sake of being boring. It's yes, it's not for the sake of wanting to be boring by any means, but I see no reason to divert away from the Henry de Bromhead trained Rachael Blackmore ridden Cheveley Park stud owned a Plutard, having won the Irish Gold Cup and with previous course form. He will do for me as regards the most likely winner. However, we all have our favourite horses in the different disciplines of racing. Kenboy absolutely falls into that bracket with me as regards up round the Gold Cup level. So I will be having a small each way saver on him. Then moving on to the race after the Gold Cup, which is the Fox Hunters. I don't know what to call it now, but it will always be the Fox Hunters to me. Willie Mullins again has the favourite here in Billaway, and going on his victory in the Hunter Chase in Leopardstown, which is more or less the acclaimed warm up for the Cheltenham version. It would leave him, I believe, considerably difficult to beat. Now, the only thing, and this may seem strange, but the only thing that would give me a slight reservation about him is that it will be actually Paul Townend taking the ride on the horse and not Patrick Mullins, as would normally be the case not only in Cheltenham but at most of his races. In fact, he may well be the most likely winner, but at the current price of 3-1, I would just like to think that there may be a little bit better value out there to be had. The Paul Nicholls train Bob and Co at 92 obviously would fall into that bracket as well. But call me highly unoriginal if you will, but I find myself going back to Enda Bulger, JP McManus in this bracket yet again. The combination turnout, Staker Wallace in this particular heat. He is the choice of Mark Walsh after the same trainer also has another horse I am very, very fond of called Stand Up and Fight, also in the race. I see he has the very talented Dara O'Keefe booked to take the ride, and I think it's highly significant that there appears to be a few quid knocking around for the horse, which obviously got its name out of the owner's fondness for all things Munster, most pertinently in this case the rugby team. So I would actually, yes, Billaway is probably a deserving favourite, but I would expect either, if not both, of the McManus pair to take more prominent order. That leads us on then to what used to be the festival closer, the Martin Pipe Conditioning Jockeys Handicap Hurdle. For some unknown reason, the geniuses in charge of Cheltenham have this year decided to rejig the running order for reasons best known to themselves. Um, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, and they could very easily have left it alone. But anyway, as is generally always the case, the Martin, I do apologise. I've just noticed that, and this is actually going to work out better for me, that it is in fact the newly what will we say, the newly incarnated Mrs. Paddy Power Mares Chase, which is the penultimate race on the card. Here we have the Willie Mullins trained Ellie May, who it would appear no more than Allaho in today's Ryanair Chase, as if this grey has been laid out for the particular contest for the duration of this evening season, and indeed mention of Allaho is very relevant and important in this case, because in the Ryanair Chase winners first run of the season, which I think was either on Turnus or Clonmel, I can't exactly swear to it, but on that one's first run of the season, for a long part of the trip, it actually appeared as if Ellie May was actually going to upstage her more fancied stablemate on the day, but I do believe, if memory serves me correctly, that the mare was coming back off a layoff at the time, and she ran subsequently then at Naas. Now, I know it may not have been anywhere near as competitive a race as the one in Tipperary was, but she put her opponents away with such consummate ease on the day in question that, it certainly did nothing to dissuade my inclination before the festival began that she, and appreciated, from my own opinion anyway, represented the two best bankers of the entire week. And I don't mind saying that I had, myself and my father had an anti-post bet done Lucky 15 with Abracadabra's Galvin, Sir Gerhard, and Ellie May. Now, as it turned out, I was actually supposed to put Sir de Burley into the bet instead of Ellie May, but sure, it may all work out for the best. Indeed, Abracadabras may well have gone fairly close to collecting in the champion hurdle. I suppose that is something we will never really know, but Ellie May, I see no reason to sway away from her in the Mares Chase. The only thing I will say is that the greatest threat to her competition she may face will most likely actually come from her own yard in the shape of the supremely talented Colreevy, who herself is on a winning streak of 3, looking for a 4th. And the only thing I would note is that Colreevy would appear to be drifting in the betting. Now, I would like to think that had more to do with utmost confidence being affixed to Ellie May, and that may well be the case, but there is nothing. I certainly wouldn't be dissuading anyone from having a pop at Ellie May if that's at Colreevy, if that was their fancy. Likewise, I could never turn anyone off having a punt on the Denise Foster prepared Shattered Love, who, yes, she's a 10-year-old mare, but I would feel that she tends to reserve her putting her best foot forward for the biggest days when it really matters. And with the way things have been rolling for Jack Kennedy this week, with the exception of Envoy Allen, I couldn't rule Shattered Love completely out of it. Similar comments could and are entitled to be affixed to the Willie Mullins trained Salsaretta and Magic of Light from the Jessica Harrington yard, who is, of course, a former runner-up in the Aintree Grand National to none other than one Tiger Roll now. So really it gives you some indication of the quality of field which has been attracted for this Mares Chase in its first year of competition, as far as I can recall. But I'm again drawn back to the Allaho race in one of the Tipperary tracks. As I say, I genuinely can't remember whether it was Clonmel or Thurles, but I do know that number 1, Allaho, was supremely impressive in taking the contest, and secondly that Ellie May delivered an eye-catching performance in second, the form of which has subsequently been franked by both herself and Allaho. So Ellie May will do for me for the penultimate contest of the meeting. And last but by no means least, we have the absolute minefield that is the Martin Pipe conditional jockeys hurdle. And as I am slightly running out of time here, I am just going to very quickly have a look and see that the Denise Foster prepared from the Gordon Elliott Yard frontal assault under very promising emerging young rider Jordan Gainford, who is in fact chasing his second festival winner of his career, number one, and of the last 24 hours, number two. Will do rightly for me. He is currently trading at 12 to 1, having opened at 16. Now, having said that, the Dan Skelton train Langer Dan um, and Gabanaco from the Gavin Cromwell Yard and Gentleman to Me from Willie Mullins' stable are deservedly at the head of the market, but frontal assault at a bit of an each-way price with a promising young condition on him, and the bookies paying on the first five will do for me for the final fling of the festival. Thank you all for looking in over the past 3 or 4 days. I hope, if not informative and helpful, I hope at least I've been entertaining. I will admit I love doing the videos, and I have loved the Cheltenham Festival this week as well, even though there were slight tinges of regret for reasons which I may go into at a later date, although many of you, I'm sure, will have a fair idea of what they are at this stage. But I hope some of you have got a few winners out of my nightly ramblings. Thanks for looking in, and I will talk to you all soon.